Rachel Carter had always been the one to hold things together. At 34, she was a single mother to 3-year-old twins, Liam and Noah, living in Austin, Texas. Life had never been easy, but after her husband Daniel died in a car accident 7 months ago, it had become a daily battle just to survive. Despite everything, she never stopped supporting her parents. Every month, she sent $2,000 to her mother Susan and stepfather Mark to help with their mortgage. She told herself it was the right thing to do. After all, family helps family. But deep down, she knew the truth. They had never really been there for her. It was Christmas Eve when the pain in her abdomen became unbearable. Rachel had been ignoring it for days, thinking it was just stress. But as she collapsed onto the floor of her tiny apartment, she knew something was seriously wrong. With shaking hands, she called 911. At St. David's Medical Center, the doctors ran tests and confirmed her worst fear, internal bleeding that required immediate surgery. She had no one to call, no one except the people she had supported for years. She dialed her mother, heart pounding. "Mom, I need you. I have to go into emergency surgery. Please come watch the twins." There was a pause before Susan sighed. "Rachel, we're already in Florida. We've had this trip planned for months. Can't you ask someone else?" Rachel felt her stomach drop. "Mom, I don't have anyone else." Mark's voice cut in, cold and dismissive. "Rachel, you need to stop expecting us to fix your problems. We're retired. We deserve to enjoy our lives." And with that, they hung up. Rachel stared at her phone, numb. The dull beep of the call ending echoed in her ears. She had always known her parents were selfish, but this was something else entirely. Her body trembled as the pain intensified, sharp and unrelenting. A nurse, Olivia, noticed her distress and rushed over. "Rachel, what's wrong?" Rachel swallowed back the lump in her throat. "I have no one to watch my kids. My parents, they won't come." A flicker of sympathy crossed Olivia's face. "I know someone who might help. My best friend Megan is a professional nanny. She used to work with kids in trauma care. Let me call her." Rachel hesitated, trusting a stranger with her children, but what choice did she have? "Please, call her," she whispered. Within minutes, Olivia was on the phone explaining the situation to Megan. "She'll be here in an hour," Olivia assured her. "She's amazing with kids. You focus on getting through surgery." As hospital staff prepared her for the operation, Rachel did something she had never done before. She chose herself. "Can you hand me my phone one last time?" she asked Olivia. With trembling fingers, she canceled the automatic monthly transfer to her parents' account. Then, she typed a message to her mother. "I will no longer be supporting you financially. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthought. Do not contact me again." As she hit send, a strange sense of freedom settled over her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving, she was taking control. When Rachel woke up, the room was dimly lit, the steady beep of the heart monitor the only sound. The pain was intense, but she was alive. The surgery had been successful. Her first thought wasn't about herself, it was about Liam and Noah. Struggling to sit up, she turned her head and saw them sleeping soundly on a makeshift bed in the corner of the hospital room. Beside them, a woman with soft brown curls and kind eyes sat in a chair, scrolling through her phone. "Megan?" Rachel's voice was hoarse. The woman looked up and smiled. "You must be Rachel. Olivia told me a lot about you. Your boys are amazing." Rachel's chest tightened, not from pain but from relief. For the first time in a long time, someone had actually shown up for her. "Thank you," she whispered. Megan waved it off. "It's nothing. They're great kids. And Olivia told me what you're going through. I know what it's like to feel alone." Rachel swallowed hard, trying to hold back tears. Then her phone buzzed. 27 missed calls. A flood of texts from her mother, her stepfather, even her sister Jenna. The messages followed a predictable pattern: confusion, frustration, and finally, desperation. Her father's last message stood out. "You can't just cut us off like this. We have bills to pay, Rachel. We counted on that money." Rachel exhaled slowly. Not a single message asked how she was doing, not one word about the surgery. She looked at Megan. They don't care about me, just the money. Megan nodded. Then maybe it's time to put yourself first. Rachel stared at her phone, the weight of the messages pressing down on her. Not one asked if she had survived the surgery. Not one checked on Liam and Noah. Megan must have sensed her turmoil. You don't owe them anything, Rachel. Rachel let out a shaky breath. She knew Megan was right, but the guilt was still there. Years of conditioning, of believing she had to keep the peace, to be the dutiful daughter. Then a new message appeared. Jenna, Mom and Dad told me you were just overreacting to a stomach bug. What's actually going on? Rachel hesitated, then typed a reply. I had emergency surgery, internal bleeding. I asked them to watch the boys and they refused. They were in Florida, enjoying their vacation. A few minutes later, Jenna responded. Oh my God, I had no idea. I would have helped if I knew. I'm so sorry, Rachel. Rachel swallowed hard. Maybe Jenna wasn't the problem. Maybe, just like her, she had spent her whole life believing the version of events their parents wanted her to see. Megan gave her a reassuring smile. You focus on healing. I can stay with the boys until you're discharged. Tears pricked Rachel's eyes. She barely knew Megan, yet this woman had done more for her in one night than her own parents had in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to let go of the guilt. Her parents had made their choice. Now it was time for her to make hers. 5 days passed before Rachel was discharged from the hospital. The recovery was tougher than she had expected, leaving her exhausted and weak. But every time she looked at Liam and Noah, she reminded herself she was doing this for them. Megan had stayed true to her word, watching the boys during the day and bringing them to visit Rachel in the evenings. It felt surreal having someone show up for her without expecting anything in return. Back home, reality hit hard. Medical bills piled up. Her freelance design work had been put on hold. But for the first time in years, she had an extra $2,000 in her account. The money she had always sent to her parents. Then her phone rang. Rachel let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, a text followed. Rachel, I don't understand what's going on. Why did you cancel the payments? We need that money. Nothing about her health, nothing about the surgery, just money. More messages poured in. Her father, her mother, even her stepfather. You're being dramatic. We counted on you. You can't just cut us off. Rachel took a deep breath and blocked their numbers. Instead, she called Jenna. Hey, her sister answered hesitantly. Do you really want to know the truth? Rachel asked. A pause. Then Jenna exhaled. Yeah, I do. For the first time, Rachel told her everything. Jenna was silent for a long moment after Rachel finished speaking. When she finally responded, her voice was shaky. I had no idea, Rachel. They told me you just didn't want to be around the family anymore. That you were choosing to distance yourself. Rachel let out a bitter laugh. Of course they did. That's what they do. Rewrite the story so they're always the victims. Jenna exhaled. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, Jenna. You just believed them, the same way I used to. For the first time, her sister saw the truth. Over the next few weeks, Jenna started visiting more. She brought groceries, played with Liam and Noah, and even sat with Rachel while she worked. Their relationship had always been strained, shaped by their parents' favoritism. But now things were shifting. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Rachel checked the peephole, her parents. She hesitated before cracking the door open just an inch. What do you want? She asked, flatly. Her mother clutched her designer purse. Rachel, we need to talk. We're struggling without your help. Her father crossed his arms. You put us in a terrible position. We had to cancel our cruise, and now the bank is calling about the mortgage. Rachel felt a strange sense of calm. That's not my problem. Her mother's voice rose in desperation. Rachel, please, we're your parents. Rachel met her eyes, unwavering. And I'm a mother, too. I would never treat my kids the way you treated me. And with that, she shut the door. Rachel expected her parents to leave after she shut the door. But the next morning, they were back. This time with reinforcements. Her aunt, Linda, stood on the doorstep, her expression carefully neutral. "Rachel, honey," Linda said gently, "let's be reasonable. Your parents are struggling. They need your help." Rachel crossed her arms. "They managed just fine before I started sending them money. They chose to retire early knowing they didn't have enough savings." Her mother's voice broke in. "We made those choices because we thought you'd always be there for us." Rachel's stomach twisted, but she refused to waver. "I was there for you. Even after losing Daniel, I still helped you every month. And when I needed you most, you abandoned me." Linda sighed. "Family is complicated, Rachel. Can't you just find it in your heart to help them through this rough patch?" Rachel met her aunt's eyes, unwavering. "No. I'm done being their safety net." She shut the door again. Hours later, an email arrived, a mass message from her father to the entire extended family. "Rachel has abandoned us in our time of need after all we've done for her. We sacrificed everything for her, and now she's turned her back on us." Rachel's phone buzzed with messages from relatives, but before she could respond, her cousin Michael replied to the email first. "Uncle Robert, didn't you just buy a new boat last year? And Aunt Susan, wasn't that a designer bracelet at Thanksgiving?" Rachel smiled for the first time in days. Maybe, for once, people were starting to see the truth. In the weeks that followed, the backlash against Rachel's parents grew. More relatives reached out to her privately, offering support. Some had their own stories of manipulation and guilt-tripping from her parents. Meanwhile, Rachel's life was slowly transforming. With the extra money she no longer sent to her parents, she was able to hire Megan part-time to help with Liam and Noah. She restarted her freelance design work, and for the first time in years, she felt financially stable. Then, one day, an envelope arrived in the mail. Handwritten, from her mother. Rachel hesitated before opening it. "Rachel, I don't expect you to forgive me. But I've had time to reflect. Losing your support forced me to see how much we took you for granted. I see now that we failed you as parents when you needed us the most. I'm deeply sorry." For the first time, there was no demand for money, no manipulation, just an apology. A week later, Jenna called. "Mom and Dad have changed, Rachel. They're going to therapy. Dad even got a job. I think they are really trying." Rachel wasn't sure if she could fully trust that, but she also knew she had changed too. So, months later, she agreed to meet them. Her father looked smaller, humbled. Her mother didn't make excuses. "Can we ever know our grandkids?" her father asked quietly. Rachel met his gaze. "That depends. If you're serious about change, we'll start slow. But my kids will only have people in their lives who respect their mother." She had chosen herself, and she would never go back. Lessons learned from the story. 1. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's necessary. Rachel learned that cutting toxic ties, even with family, is essential for her well-being. She realized that she didn't have to sacrifice her happiness or financial stability to keep others comfortable. 2. True family is built on support, not obligation. While her biological parents failed her, Rachel found a support system in Megan, Olivia, and even Jenna. Family isn't just about blood. It's about those who show up when you need them the most. 3. Manipulation disguised as love is still manipulation. Her parents tried to guilt her into financially supporting them, but Rachel saw through their tactics. Love should never be conditional or come at the cost of your own well-being. 4. Financial independence gives you power. By reclaiming her money, Rachel gained control over her own life. She no longer had to fund others at the expense of her children's future. 5. People can change, but actions speak louder than words. While her parents apologized, Rachel knew that real change required consistent actions. She didn't let guilt force her into forgiveness. She waited to see if they truly deserved a second chance. 6. Choosing yourself is the strongest decision you can make. For years, Rachel put her parents first. The moment she chose herself and her children, her life began to heal. Loving yourself enough to walk away from toxic relationships is a form of self-respect.